Hi, I'm Tom, and this is Adult Game Reviews. This week I take a look at Snowstorm by GleenX Studio. Not to be confused by Sandstorm, GleenX Studio's first game. Snowstorm is currently on version 0.9, which means I think it's close to completion, maybe? Imagine waking up in the middle of a blizzard, and before freezing to death, you're rescued by a very large and very blonde woman carrying a glowing axe. How would you feel?
I'm irritated and turned on and kind of hungry.
But before we get into that, please like and subscribe. Every like and every comment really helps the algorithm. Thanks all. Okay, so Snowstorm is the follow-up to Sandstorm, and while you're prompted to check out Sandstorm before playing Snowstorm, I actually started with Snowstorm. As far as I can tell, not knowing Sandstorm really hasn't detracted from the experience. Plus, I love Vikings over the Egyptian setting personally. So in this video, there are certain things I can't show, so you may see me focus on certain characters more than others. Just an FYI. Okay, let's get into it. You play the polyglot MC who finds himself in the 11th century Scandinavia. I think it takes you a bit too long to realize that you aren't just at a Ren fair, but you do eventually catch up.
Took you long enough.
You end up getting rescued and then imprisoned to start, which triggers your choice for 3 distinct paths. You can join the White Wolves. These are the traders, the merchants, and the large blonde people.
That's a huge bitch!
Then you have the Bloody Bears. These are the stereotypical Vikings. They live in makeshift tents and all they want to do is raid and do battle. Then you have the Dark Ravens, which are much more of a collectivist society led by their raven-haired witch.
She's a witch! Get her!
Snowstorm is mostly a historical fiction with a bit of fantasy thrown in. Each playthrough has multiple paths. The first run through I did was with the White Wolves, and I had 2 separate paths with my chosen love interest in the White Wolves. The second full playthrough I did was with the Bloody Bears, which was distinctly different than with the White Wolves. Okay, let's jump into the visuals. Snowstorm was really pretty. I thought the visuals and the environments perfectly fit the setting and all the character models were very well done. You may recognize some of the models used, but that's not a bad thing. The audio was also well done. The music mostly fit the setting, and every once in a while you would get a song that doesn't fit, but the music with the sound effects, it all just helps set the tone so well. I was quite impressed. Now, onto the story and plot. First, the writing was probably the weakest part of Snowstorm. There are awkward sentences and typos every once in a while, which do take away from the story, but nothing too problematic. I do not think the writing was a strength, but I did think it was good enough for me to get sucked into the story. So, overall, fairly average.
It's actually decently legible.
However, the story is pretty impressive with how many paths and angles you get to see it from, but it's not terribly complex, which is not a bad thing. I think if things were too complicated, it would be impossible to make sense of everything that happens. You have the main quest, but with each playthrough you get a new perspective. I thought that when I did my second playthrough with the Bloody Bears, it would be a scene thrown in here and there, but mostly everything was the same. However, that was not the case, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, that was actually pretty cool.
The perspective and the path was different enough where it felt like I was playing a different game in the best possible way. Most of the choices you're given actually matter. You will go out with different characters where all the choices you make add up to a certain point total. If you want to max it out, you have to make sure you answer correctly. If you do not meet the point threshold, you end up missing out on some content. I went back in my first playthrough multiple times until I was able to max out Austria's points. If you want to make it easier on yourself, you can find a guide online, but I thought it was more fun to go back and min-max each playthrough. There were enough twists and turns to make the story interesting, and every once in a while something happened that really surprised me. Whether it be a specific plotline I didn't see coming or an emotional scene I wasn't expecting. Now, most of the emotional scenes are okay, nothing that will blow you away, but there was one scene when you find out a big secret with Austria and Astrid that had me tearing up.
Are you crying?
Only a little!
Okay, so I wasn't bawling or anything, but it was just enough to impress me. Moving on to the spicy content, it is gated behind the point system and the story. This is not a free-for-all, which I was relatively happy about. But when things do happen, it makes sense. Mostly. So I haven't seen everything yet, but that's my guess. All in all, I loved Snowstorm. I thought it was fantastic. I loved the characters and the setting. The story was interesting enough to keep me invested, and I definitely had my favorite characters. You have to love Astrid and Ursa. So this is a big play for me. However, since it's on version 0.9, you may want to wait until it's fully complete, but I'm not sure how many more updates that will be. I mean, there's enough content right now that you will get a lot out of what's there. So if you play it, let me know what you think down below. I want to thank all my backers on Patreon and Subscribestar. If it wasn't for you guys, none of this would be possible. And if you haven't seen my video on the best sci-fi games, you can check it out right here. Thanks again. Until next time.